in talking about China's political structure, I want to take us back and talk about what I find problematic about the China unit. Oftentimes, when China is taught from an AP comparative government perspective, I found as a person of the world who, as you know, has lived in different parts of the world, and as a person of color who questions a single narrative, I really think that thinking beyond our biases is important. When I first started teaching this 5 years ago and looked at some of the exam questions on China, I was really troubled by the biases about China's history and culture. So, as comparativists, we can make comparisons and talk about the positives and negatives of a democratic government versus an authoritarian government. And we should try and look for the good in every single culture that we study. I like this political cartoon because a lot of times we think we're being open-minded and we are welcoming people, but at the same time, we basically ask people to be similar to us in order for us to understand them. So I hope we'll look beyond that. And ultimately, my hope in teaching about China is that we'll think beyond the box. I think that no matter what culture or country we look at, there's richness, there's depth, and the more we can learn from each other as a humanity, the more creative we'll be in what we put forth in the world. You want to know that there is a symbiotic relationship and a hierarchical relationship between these three symbols. The Chinese Communist Party is up at the very top. Then you have the People's Republic of China, and then you have the People's Liberation Army. And if we had to actually look at the influence of the Chinese Communist Party, we could say everything in China really comes back to the CCP and what it's about and what it does. So that wouldn't be a wrong statement, but I think we should balance that with the nuance. China is a fascinating case study. It's got 1.4 billion people in the world, currently the largest country in the world, soon to be replaced by India. It is also a unitary system of government, so all kinds of comparisons can be made with other unitary governments that we studied this year. So here's a slide I got from Dr. Bill Joseph, who is the department head of political science at Wellesley College. He's also one of your authors of the textbook by Kesselman, Krieger, and Joseph. He was nice enough to share this slide with me and come and speak to our class a couple of years ago. So he's built this graph to sort of show you the immense influence that the Chinese Communist Party has over the other two pillars of power, which are the People's Republic of China and the People's Liberation Army. And he has this great quotation by Mao here, which sort of says, "The force at the core leading our cause forward is the Chinese Communist Party. The theoretical basis guiding our thinking is Marxist-Leninism." So with that framework, I'm going to shift and look at what the People's Republic of China's constitution actually says. So here it's really interesting because it sort of says Article 2, all power for the PRC belongs to the people. Article 1 actually says that the PRC, the People's Republic of China, is a socialist state under the People's Democratic Dictatorship led by the working class and based on the alliance of workers and peasants. So what does that mean? You've got the socialist state and the People's Democratic Dictatorship, not words we usually see coming together. What this means is that the PRC believes in a socialist state where decisions are made for the good of the majority and all of the people as they see it. And that's where democracy is representing the needs and desires of all the people, making the government democratic. But it is a dictatorship because that guidance and the direction the PRC takes is very much from the Chinese Communist Party. And what's also interesting, it doesn't say so here, but it is known that the PRC, the Constitution of China, actually says the legitimate party to carry on and carry out the desires of the People's Republic of China must be the Chinese Communist Party. Notice Article 35, it says that citizens enjoy freedom of speech, press, assembly, association, procession, and demonstration. And they also enjoy freedom of religious belief. So it sounds very much like the U.S. Constitution's Bill of Rights. Unfortunately, this means something very different in China from a Western perspective, If we look at the Freedom House Index measure for China in 2019, China has a Freedom House Index of 11 out of 100, which basically means that it is not free. And we're going to see later on how there are serious problems with political speech. You can have freedom of speech as long as you don't criticize the Chinese Communist Party. You can work within the system, you cannot criticize outside. Um, Religious belief is also something that is fairly contentious at the moment, with Uyghurs being put in concentration camps. So, some forms of Christianity are being espoused and endorsed by the state, and that's fine. But Muslim Uyghurs in particular are definitely seen as the enemy and are being told to essentially renounce their faith and give communism greater credence and importance than anything else. We're also going to look at the Falun Gong, which is a martial arts movement, but the Chinese state has basically said that they are a cult and have been outlawed as well. So more on that in the next section.